In the year 1966, anti-Vietnam conflict was prevalent. Miranda rights were ratified. The U.S. Department of Transportation was created. And Batman, the television series, first aired on ABC. The average cost of a new car was only $2,600. The average cost of a new house was $14,000. And yes, gasoline was only 32 cents per gallon. Equally important was that in 1966, Dr. Charles Morris began working as an associate professor of mathematics at Illinois State University, ISU, in Normal, Illinois. Later, his beautiful spouse, Dr. Jean Morris, joined ISU and served in many roles, including as a curriculum and instruction professor. They were both two of the first African American professors at ISU. It is equally important to note that Mrs. Dr. Morris played a most pivotal role in the development of the university's bachelor's degree program in early childhood education. She was also the first African American teacher at Metcalf. Truly, their legacies are impressive and shall reign for generations to come. The collaboration with the Bloomington Normal Youth Council, where our members range from the tender ages of 2 through 18, was simply magical. The Youth Council members were enamored with Dr. Morris and Dr. Morris, and the Morrises were equally enamored with our NAACP Youth Council members. This rich partnership allowed young people to engage with the past so they may shape their futures. Now, let's hit the rewind button as we take a deep dive into the dynamic lives of history makers Dr. Morris and Dr. Morris via this exclusive documentary. You see, they were college sweethearts. And even though they both attended historically black colleges and universities, or HBCUs, Mrs. Dr. Morris attended Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, and Mr. Dr. Morris matriculated at Johnson C. Smith University in Charlotte, North Carolina. Mrs. Dr. Morris became a proud member of the illustrious Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and Mr. Dr. Morris joined the distinguished men of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Of course, the sorority and fraternity affiliations are reminiscent of Mrs. Coretta Scott King and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s commitments to the Divine Nine. 0608, the rest were too late. Now, the history. The 1960s. The Civil Rights Movement was a struggle for social justice that primarily occurred in the 1950s and the 1960s as Black Americans worked diligently to gain equal rights under the law in the United States of America. So even though the Civil War had officially abolished slavery in 1865, it did not end discrimination against African Americans. African Americans continued to endure the devastating effects of racism, discrimination, and biases. When the Morrises moved to Normal, Illinois in 1966, they unfortunately experienced racial discrimination and were often refused the opportunity to even view homes that were listed for sale, even though, check this out, they were more financially qualified and they possessed more education than the white homeowners who had the audacity to refuse to sell to them. Dr. Morris said, and I quote, "One resident was openly hostile about our presence in the neighborhood. The situations had its sad and angry moments," end quote. Mrs. Dr. Morris stated, "It was rumored that we had been hired by the NAACP to purchase a home and to run the neighborhood down," end quote. Well, rumors will be rumors. Obviously, that rumor never came to fruition. You see, the Morrises did not run the neighborhood down. Instead, they built it up on a solid foundation of integrity, equality, and their love for humanity. Eventually, the Morrises took home ownership to a brand new level. According to Dr. Morris, and we quote, "We purchased a lot and we built our home in which we lived in for 53 years, end quotation. Obviously, the racial climate was not always conducive to a meaningful learning environment for our African American students. Now, though student housing was available to African American students at ISU, African American students were not allowed to rent off-campus housing in Normal as white students could. As such, the Morrises quickly went into action, along with Vernon Pullman, Mark Palmers, and Robert Lenses. They combined their resources and they purchased 4 residences in Normal, Illinois, so that they could rent to African American students who were matriculating at ISU. From the beginning of time, the Morrises have always embraced elements associated with racial and social justice. Their courageous actions of providing housing amenities to African American students not only contributed to Black generational wealth, but they also helped Illinois State University students obtain quality education, and they helped African Americans secure careers so that they could sustain meaningful lifestyles. As such, let's listen to our NAACP Youth Council as they engage in dialogue with the Morrises.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Linda Foster, President of the Bloomington Normal NAACP. And I'm so proud to be here today to be in the presence of a legacy. I bring you greetings from our Exec Committee, First Vice President, Dr. Carter Campbell Jackson, Second Vice President, Ms. Willie Holden Howard, our Secretary, Sabrina Coleman, and our Treasurer, Mr. Ben Wyburn. In addition to that, I would like to acknowledge our Youth Council President, Mr. Bradley Jackson. And I'd like to also recognize our Youth Council representatives, and committee. Mr. Brian Thomas, as well as Ms. Lisa Campbell. I like to recognize those individuals because without them, we couldn't be. And without these two individuals, Dr. Morris, the Morrises, we wouldn't see what a doctor looked like in our community. And to be married and to bring forth so much history for this Bloomington Normal area. They're trailblazers, they're history makers, they're advocates, they're social justice demanders, they're freedom fighters. And you can go on and on about the things that they've done and the things they have shown us that we can do. So without any further ado, I appreciate the freedom they have afforded me. I appreciate the friendship that they have given me. Yeah, I said friendship. Been knowing these folks for a long time. And they've been doing what they do for a long time. You're going to hear about that. And I'm looking forward to the conversation. So without any further ado, I will bring up our Youth Council President, Mr. Bradley Jackson. No. Without any further ado, I'd like to bring up our Youth Council Representative, Mr. Brian Thomas.
Good afternoon. I'm excited to be here with our Youth Council, our students, excited that they're still learning and wanting to learn the rich history of Bloomington Normal. And not just that, but the rich African-American history of the Bloomington Normal area. You know, sometimes we have to keep reminding others because we know African-American history is a large part of American history. So I know that they've done a lot of studies of this rich Bloomington history and the ties to David Davis and Abraham Lincoln. And they talk about Jesse Fell bringing ISU here. But I think this is where the heart of the university lies. When we talk about our community, it starts right here. So I'm so excited to listen to Dr. Morris and Dr. Morris as they educate our youth and our community about our people at ISU. So next I'd like to bring up the president of our Youth Council, Bradley Jackson.
Greetings. My name is Mr. Bradley Ross Jackson, and I proudly serve as president of this most esteemed NAACP Youth Council. Today, we are delighted to take a trip back down memory lane as we hear from two of Bloomington Normal's most esteemed civil rights pioneers, Dr. Morris and Dr. Morris. They will offer an introspective peek into the racism and discrimination experienced in Bloomington Normal in the 1950s and 1960s. Moreover, they will share how they courageously advocated for justice while building relationships with all races. In my mind's eye, I can envision the late Congressman John Lewis saying, Dr. Morris and Dr. Morris believed they had a mission, a moral obligation, and a mandate to do their part. Thank you both for doing your parts. We shall now have opening comments from Dr. Morris and Dr. Morris, followed by questions from our esteemed Youth Council members. Thank you both for making history and herstory.
I'm delighted to be here and to share with these wonderful young people all their energy and insights into the world and wanting to be a part of change in the world. I'm just delighted. In fact, at their initial inauguration, I said that I had called my hometown of Charleston to find out if they had a youth council and if they needed any help organizing one, they should come to Illinois and find out how to do it.
We both worked in a resort in the state of New Hampshire. Met there. She went off to Florida, taught for 4 years. I taught in North Carolina. We reconnected and started a family. The family was started here in Illinois. We came to Champaign-Urbana, both of us getting degrees, masters and doctorates, while the children were growing.
Hi, my name is Carson Roth. I'm the treasurer in the NAACP Youth Council. And my first question is, what action in your life did you take that made you feel fulfilled?
Being a teacher, the first African American teacher at Metcalf Laboratory School. And I received a grant from ISU to bring a Head Start class to Metcalf. My kids were amongst the first African Americans to be admitted there, but so were the kids in my kindergarten class. We had a ball. And I've got kids, I walked the streets on the west side, I followed kids home, asked them where their parents were, and found out who they were, and signed them up. That was one of my great experiences.
But we sponsored many African American organizations. Mrs. Dr. Morris started the chapter of Kappa Apple here on campus. I sponsored and started the chapter of Apple Phi Alpha here on campus. Those are some of the fulfilling experiences that we've had.
Thank you. My name is Cindy, and I am the third vice president in the NAACP Youth Council. So my first question is, how has racism created barriers in your career?
We could not attend the state institutions of our states. He was Virginia, and I was South Carolina. I could not go to college at the University of South Carolina. I went to Spelman. And I'm glad I did. He told you about, he went to Johnson C. Smith University. Those were black colleges started because we could not be admitted to the state universities.
We could not have equal access, for example, to the health protection in our hometowns. The doctors and dentists that I was able to see was only after hours. We couldn't go to those places for service during the regular hours.
Yeah, they say, wow. Yes, they would have their regular hours from 9 to 4, and then go home and eat supper, and come back and have an hour where the African Americans in their town could go down to be served.
We were not able to buy insurance at the same rates as others, and because of that, housing was more expensive, housing that we could find or get. And that affected many aspects of our life. There were several barriers in almost every category that you can think of. Barriers which are unseen, for example, when you are driving through a town, even at that time, America-wide, there was a difference if you were driving while black and driving with no color involved. I've had experiences where I have been stopped while driving, fortunately not arrested,
And my question is, as a Christian, looking from a Christian's view, what are your thoughts on racism in general?
Well, as a Christian, everything should be equal, fair, honest. And there is as much racism in some churches across the country as there is in the general population. You find as much racism there as you do outside the church.
My belief is that we serve a loving God, and that when we walk in that path and we do the right things and we try to be godly to other people, we have rewards and we have a good life. Good question.
Hello, my name is Kenneth Brooks, and my question is, if you could go back in time and tell younger you one, positive thing about yourself now, what would it be?
That's difficult for me because my parents gave me so much encouragement to be true, to be who you are, and I think the way we have lived is because of what we got from our parents and our family. That we didn't rob, steal, or mistreat, well, kids do, but we were fair and we lived according to God's will.
If I could go back in time and change something, maybe to help others more, and that's something we've tried to do very much in our adult lives. I could work harder in education, I suppose, even though we achieved a fair amount. We would not stop learning.
Hi, my name is Richa Shukla, and I'm the Social Media and Technology Chair of the NAACP Youth Council. My question for Dr. Morris and Dr. Morris is, I understand there's been a lot of political progress in regards to civil rights from your generation to our generation, but how do you feel about the continual, small things that have stayed, like microaggressions from your time to our time?
When human beings are denied the right to exist, that's not anybody's job. I mean, who put them in charge, would be my question. Who made them the deciders of what's good for everyone?
Well, we've seen a lot of change during our years, and for much of that time, we have seen improvements in the society and race relations. Regrettably, we're in a situation now where when people are being killed in Buffalo, New York, because of their color, and other places in the country, that's regressing in time and in the world behavior. It's not only happening here in the United States, it's people of color are finding it more difficult at this day, late in time, than earlier. But there's hope for a reversal of what we have seen happening in the last few years.
Hi, my name is Sean Oakley, and I'm a special guest of the youth. Today, my question for you, Mr. and Mrs. Morse, is how would you compare racism from now to how it has been back when you were teaching ISU?
Well, things have improved at ISU and in the Bloomington Normal community in very strong ways. We've been associated with organizations which have helped that happen. There was, and still is, an organization called Minority Voters Coalition, which had the purpose of improving voting abilities for people of color.
And there is an organization called the Wilmington Normal Youth. What's your organization? Council. That's a big step. That's a really big step that you're getting involved early on and you're understanding and you're making a difference.
What's your name?
Riley
Riley Rose. How old are you?
Wow.
Say, yes, you did. Say, what time is it?
Tea time.
The NAACP time. What time is it?
Tea time.
I'm Miles, and I'm the second vice president of the NAACP Youth Council. My question is, how were you two first recruited for ISU?
Well, Charles received a National Science Fellowship, and we came to the University of Illinois. And because we were going to be there so long, several of the people in the math department at ISU came down to Champaign, Urbana to take courses, summer courses, which he conducted. And they liked him so well, and of course I went with the package. And they encouraged him to come to ISU to teach.
Good.
Hi, my name is Jada. What are your thoughts on Black Lives Matter?
Black lives do matter. I can't think of anything else to say. We are living human beings, and we have contributions to make. We have lives to live. I heard someone say that Black lives didn't matter one time, and that person will probably never ever say that again, because I provided an answer.
But Black Lives Matter is a very good organization that we both support, and we hope that people in general can see the value in the fact that the lives, each person's life matters, not just one group or another. Thank you for that question.
My name is Kamaya Coleman, and my question is, how did being discriminated against change your mindset?
Someone comes after you and attacks you openly, you're more likely to resist. And you feel that you have to defend yourself. And that has happened a couple of times in our lives. When someone has said, Black lives don't matter, and I ask them to explain that to me, and they can't. So they think about it differently, or I give them some ways that they can think about it. And sometimes it's not very pleasant.
There were things I wanted to learn and wanted to do, and we both have been able to live our lives in spite of the fact that we were discriminated against. So being discriminated against did not change our minds, goals, things that we wanted to do and accomplish.
Hello, my name is Satoda Rogal, and I'm the secretary for the Youth Council. And today my question is, what is one of the hardest things you had to endure since you were the first Black professors at ISU? And then what gave you the strength to keep going through those hard times?
Good question. Well, because there were African American students in wanting to be teachers, I felt I had to help them be the best that they could be. And so I got a email from a woman who is the only African American teacher at Metcalf right now, who was a student of mine, who thanked me for giving her the courage to go on and do what she needed to do.
Being the first or the only in any situation is a challenge. One has often to prove himself or herself because others are not willing to accept you and your talents, your abilities at face value. Somehow they want to perceive that if you're a person of color, you don't have those abilities or talents. And we have had to face that at time and again over our lifetime, not just at ISU, but certainly in the larger community.
Hi, my name is Fakana, and my question is, what was your relationship with your college professors?
Black universities, so all of our professors were black. Both of them. In Spelman, the president was white, but I had a number of African American teachers. Martin Luther King's sister, mother, and grandmother went to Spelman. And a lot of teachers in the African American institutions migrated around the country in exchange. So we didn't always have white teachers, we had black teachers as well. Those who had broken through the system.
At the HBCUs, historically black, the relationship was warm, they were supportive, encouraging. At other institutions, that wasn't always the case. We had professors who themselves I would describe as racist. So I didn't get the same support and feeling of encouragement in that case. But all together, our experiences have been, we have gotten enough good support and enough good relations with professors that we have known, both teaching us and who we have worked with, to help us achieve what we have at this point.
Hi, my name is Momin Shogal, and my question is, as college professors at ISU, did you face any microaggressions from your peers? And if so, what were some of them?
The answer is yes, and when you live that way as long as we have, you learn what to do and what not to do. And for some of those people, the best thing you could do is to ignore them. For some other people, you confront them. And you have a feeling who it's worth spending your time on to convince, or who you have to go into the larger community and become totally active to despair those people.
Certainly there were people in the ISU community who felt strongly, in my view, were racist. But the institution has been beyond that. Our experiences have been at Illinois State University, by and large. This has been a good place for us to work and grow.
Greetings once again. My name name is Bradley Ross Jackson, and I'm the president of the NAACP Youth Council. And my question is, what are your thoughts about the recent Buffalo, New York shooting that killed 10 black people?
These are extreme times. That was the most egregious incident based on racist beliefs. My feeling is, in some ways, things haven't changed. And regardless of the progress we've seen and the good things that have been achieved, those incidents prove that there is yet a long way to go.
Well, that concludes our candid conversation with Dr. Morris and Dr. Morris. Man, that has such a nice ring to it. You both inspire the NAACP Youth Council to carry on the civil rights torch of excellence. Thank you for sharing such rich history and herstory. This documentary, created by the NAACP Bloomington Normal Youth Council, will go down in history as a monumental contribution to our community. Godspeed, and thank you both for your impeccable service and commitment to social justice and racial justice.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Lord, there've been times that I thought I couldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know